Welcome to Northwest Aerospace News Live. I am Jennifer Ferrero, a writer for the magazine and your host. In today's episode, we are talking with John McCullough, General Manager of Marketing of Kubotek Kosmos. They make software and validation systems for the aerospace industry and support aerospace manufacturing with their products. Let's welcome today's guest, John. Welcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. Happy to be here with you.
John, thank you for coming on the show. I understand you have three main lines of business with Kubotek Kosmos. Before we get into the lines of business, please tell us how this company was named and what the name means.
Yeah, so Kubotek Kosmos develops specialized engineering software, and we directly support customers from our headquarters here in Massachusetts. We were established in 2004. The Kubotek part of the name is from our Japanese parent company, Kubotek Corporation, which is an inspection technology and electronics company, still led by its founder, Dr. Tetsuo Kubo. So the Kosmos part of our name was added last year, and that was meant to distinguish the American software subsidiary from the rest of the corporation, and also to really help highlight the unique technology that we've developed. So Kosmos alludes to the infinite 3D space at the core of our geometric modeling software. And this space analogy extends even to astronomy-based function names and terminology, which we use throughout the programming interface of the 3D framework product, which we license to other engineering and manufacturing software developers. Additionally, the software architecture has unique capabilities that allows customers to work with precise models of physical objects at any scale with that infinite kind of feel, right? I've been getting a few questions about this too. One of the things that people asked me about was the spelling with the K. And obviously it's related to the K's in Kubotek, but it's also related to the Greek spelling, and that the Greek philosophers Aristotle and Plato were involved in popularizing this word cosmos. And the definition that we had found is that cosmos means the universe seen as a well-ordered whole. And when we found that, it really fit well with what we were trying to establish for ourselves and the technology that we built.
Well, thank you for sharing about the name. It does seem a little bit unique, but alliteration using the two Ks does help people remember the business, I imagine.
Right.
Well, what is the mission and purpose of the company, and how is that being carried out?
Well, I know that the space analogy we use to explain the core technology sounds a bit academic, but our primary application really is direct benefit to aerospace manufacturing. So the CAD software and the utilities which we build enable our suppliers in the aerospace manufacturing world to precisely read 3D product definitions, which are sent to them by their customers. And what's important is that they can read these regardless of the design software used by that customer. So, they need to be ready to read data from anywhere. Might not be the same customer that they're getting data from one day to the next. So suppliers that have this capability to accept models from anywhere, it really means that they can take in model-based definitions in place of the traditional engineering drawings. And that's an initiative that leading companies like Boeing are moving forward with, and they're trying to eliminate time and errors associated with drawings.
Okay, let's dive into the lines of business, starting with the 3D framework. Tell us what this is, and can you share a customer story?
Yeah, so in the 3D framework business, it was really a geometric modeling kernel product. In that business line, our software engineers are directly supporting software engineers of other specialized software vendors, similar to ourselves. So we had launched this product in 2018, and that was really when we started using the name Kosmos. And this has been our fastest growing line in terms of revenue. Last year, we'd announced the major success for this with our customer Lambda Research. They produce optical engineering software. So their Trace Pro product for their 2022 version is now entirely based on Kubotek technology. So they had replaced an earlier modeling engine that they were using. And they chose the Kubotek product for the speed and the precision that they were able to get. We've recently written a story on our website about that. success that we had with Lambda, they were able to increase the speed of how quickly they were able to calculate models. And, they're firing millions of light rays in this digital modeling space at their designs and analyzing how the light bounces around. So they were able to get 10 times the performance out of that changeover to our modeling engine. So later on, actually, once they got their product out, they actually also realized that their customers really appreciated all the translators that we were able to bring to them. And they can read CAD models now directly from a lot of different formats like SolidWorks and CATIA and NX from Siemens.
As a follow-up to that question, and before we go to the next question, I'd like to know a little bit more about your specific customer, because it sounds to me like it's software engineers, or is it more design engineers for engineering design?
Well, yeah, so this line of business, right, this is why I try to explain these things in different lines. The first line is really where we're selling our software components to other software vendors and supporting them. They build products that they sell to end users. So those end users, in this case, one of the stories that our customer Lambda Research has been telling a lot about recently is their involvement with the James Webb Space Telescope. So they help do analysis on how the light bounces around in the mirrors inside of the instrument that's out in space, and divide up different types of light as it reflects off of different materials in the instrument.
Okay, and that gives new meaning to the use of the word cosmos as well,
Right.
if you're
That's
also
Yep.
working with space applications. Well, I see the second line of business is CAD utilities. What does that mean to you? And please share a brief customer application.
Right. So the second line of business is what we call specialized CAD utilities, which help with product definition data moving across the supply chain. So these products are now entirely based on our 3D framework. And, it's a little unusual for most teams that are creating this base level CAD technology that I was just talking about as our first line of business, that we're also building products with it. But we found that this has been really helpful in supporting customers because we're building and supporting end user products like they are, and we get their pains, some of the pieces that they have to deal with. But so this second line of business that we're in, these CAD utilities, are specifically the primary product in it, specifically developed based on Boeing requirements. So this has the most direct tie-in with the aerospace manufacturing community in the Pacific Northwest. What this product does is allow CAD definitions to come into a manufacturing company that may have a lot of different specialized software that they use in their processes. And they have to translate that data into all these specialized softwares. Boeing wants to be sure that as those translations occur and the model is used in a bunch of different systems, that we haven't lost any data. So our tool is a third-party auditor that double checks the data coming out of the specialized systems the manufacturing team is using still matches the exact definitions that Boeing supplied. Typically for Boeing, it would be a CATIA model, for example.
Well, last, please. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we have, when we come to the Pacific Northwest area, we're supporting a lot of customers that are meeting those requirements that Boeing has provided by using our utility just to double check their CAD data as it moves through their process. That
sounds like important work. That's great. Well, last, please tell me about Key Creator CAD, what it is, and what's a good aerospace application for that line of business.
Yeah, so the third line of our software is called Key Creator, and that was the product that we originally had when the company was formed. And it's based on an earlier CAD program called CAD Key, which had been acquired by Kubotek at that time. So I don't usually tell this decades-old part of the story anymore, but CAD Key was very popular in the Northwest. At one point in the early 90s, Boeing had 900 seats of CAD Key. So we still have many customers in the area that we're supporting with this Key Creator product that go back to those days. And like our CAD utilities, Key Creator is mostly used by build-to-print part suppliers. So these are people that are, getting 3D model data or sometimes drawings from their customers, and they need to build exactly to that specification. And so it's a special kind of manufacturing that, they're doing that kind of stuff. our largest segment of key creator customers is actually even a subsegment of those build to print people. They're doing tooling. So you can imagine that, let's say a mold needs to be created based on a plastic part design. So there's a company that's building a product, they've designed their plastic part, and now they need a partner that's going to be able to produce that plastic part. And that partner is going to be specialized in creating injection molding for that purpose. So our customer uses Key Creator to design that injection mold equipment that will produce the plastic part, and has a back and forth with the customer to make sure that any changes that they recommend based on, oh, this will be easier to mold, it will reduce costs if we make these small design changes. That kind of back and forth is the kind of thing that Key Creator is good at, because it frees the model up from a lot of the original constraints that were put on it during the design process, and allows those mold designers to have more freedom to move pieces around as they need to. So, partially with Key Creator, one of the things that people usually think of when we say it's CAD software, they think of large customers designing complex products, like say an airplane. Key Creator is generally used by smaller organizations that are doing things that require more flexibility, and they're doing it on a quicker turnaround basis, like that build-to-print application.
I can imagine that's helpful information for our listeners of the show. Thank you for sharing some of those applications. Well, what trends are you seeing with CAD software, validation tools, and engineering design?
Yeah, so I think the biggest trend that I'm seeing over the last, and this has been growing over decades really, but what we're seeing is that CAD data can now be stored in standardized formats and shared among different companies. So as I've been explaining, a lot of our business is helping data move between, an original design team and their suppliers that are going to be building tooling or manufacturing those components. And there's a standard now called STEP AP242 that isn't just the 3D model data, but it also includes tolerance annotations that are attached to the model. And really, this allows for the elimination of drawings. And this can be debated of whether or not, this is another step toward using 3D. And I know some people say like, oh, the challenge that engineers are having, they're struggling to learn these complex CAD systems, and they're too focused on 3D modeling and not aware enough of, can this part actually be manufactured? I'm hopeful that by using these standards and putting tolerances into that definition, we focus on the manufacturability, and these tolerances obviously are based on that premise. If we can train people to understand the tolerancing that they're applying to the model as a core part of the definition, I think that may actually help engineering community move forward and become more efficient overall. But this is impacting our validation business as well. Right now, quite often our customers will receive a 3D model and a PDF with a 2D drawing. There's dangers inherent in that you can have two different definitions they can maybe even not match exactly. But right now our software is examining that 3D model. The future will be where that model actually has all of the annotations on it. There is no drawing, and our software is already ready to do the analysis on these annotations as well as the foundation geometry of the 3D model.
Is there anything else you'd like to add as we're coming to the end of our show today?
Well, personally, I've been visiting Seattle to attend the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance annual conference over the last few years. So it's been a pleasure to meet your director, Dean, and yourself through the PNAA organization. I've learned a lot about the aerospace industry, and it's been just a pleasure to visit Seattle. And it's a pretty city.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Well, if you're interested in learning more about Kubotek Kosmos, check out their website, KUBOTECK KOSMOS, And until next time, keep engaging with the manufacturing and aerospace news you need to know in the Northwest with Northwest Aerospace News Magazine. Goodbye.